Welcome back to the channel. My name is Deck, and if you enjoy talking about gaming in any way, shape or form, you're going to feel right at home here. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing and talking about my own personal reactions to last night's Ubisoft Forward event, which took place at around 8 PM here in the UK. And this was an event that I was looking forward to. This was essentially Ubisoft's E3, of course, with E3 being off the cards this year for pretty much everybody. It seems like most of the major publishers and major studios have been doing their own versions of E3. Of course, we've seen Sony do theirs a couple of weeks ago. Microsoft's did the first part of theirs back in May. Their second part is coming out next week. So each of the major studios are doing their own things, kind of, to kind of what's the word I'm looking for? To compensate for the lack of E3. Sorry, that took me a while to get there, but we got there. So with Ubisoft's event, like I said, I was looking forward to it. I'm a fan of Ubisoft. I genuinely am. I do like a lot of the games and their franchises that they put out. And with this, you know, with games like Watch Dogs Legion and Assassin's Creed Valhalla on the horizon, I was excited to see those games pop up again. And also with the unfortunate early reveal of Far Cry 6, I was also excited to see where that would come into play. Overall, I think this event was decent. It's not amazing. I didn't think it was absolutely incredible. I don't think it was, you know, full of these really exciting reveals, because to be fair, most of the things that they showed here were games that we knew about. Like I said, I think the main hook for this was meant to be Far Cry 6, like that was meant to be the big boom reveal, because that's what they had right at the very end. But of course, unfortunately, Far Cry 6 was leaked, I believe, on Friday, and then Ubisoft kind of had to come out and sort of half-arsedly reveal it on Saturday, so, you know, they were kind of almost ahead of, you know, to kind of pretend that, like, they were ahead of the leaks. So, you know, I think this conference would have come across a bit better and a bit more surprising had Far Cry 6 not been leaked. But like I say, that was out of their control, so I'm not going to hold that against them. But let's just dive in. There's three main talking points I want to talk about in this, and I'll just go through those one by one and discuss my thoughts on each of them. So firstly, I want to talk about Watch Dogs Legion. Now, this was the game they kicked off the conference with, and Watch Dogs Legion, to me, looks really cool and really fun. I don't think this game looks absolutely amazing from a graphical standpoint. I mean, this is kind of a problem that we're going to experience with a lot of multi-platform games going into the next generation, because, of course, a lot of these very early games, especially from a company like Ubisoft, are going to be cross-generation. So Watch Dogs Legion is going to release on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, but will also be releasing on the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. They did reveal that at the conference. They even had Phil Spencer come out, who was, of course, the head of Xbox, to say that Ubisoft is supporting smart delivery, which, if you don't know what smart delivery is, it's basically this program that Xbox has going on, where if you buy a game on the Xbox One, sort of, you know, in the next few months, like one of these more recent games, something like Cyberpunk 2077 or Marvel's Avengers, if you buy that game on Xbox One, you will receive a free updated version for the Xbox Series X when you pick up the console, which is a really great thing for consumers. You know, I think it's a great idea, and Sony also seems to be doing similar things as well with the PlayStation 5, so that's going to be supported by Watch Dogs Legion, which is nice. But anyway, going back to the game itself, I think the Watch Dogs Legion looks like a really fun game. I mean, when they revealed this game last year at E3, I was incredibly excited because I'm a fan of Watch Dogs, particularly the first game more than the second, but the first game I really enjoyed, and the second game, while I thought it was good, it didn't quite have the same hook for me as the first game did. I felt like the second game was trying a bit too hard to kind of be modern, and it kind of came across as a bit more cringy than anything. But I'm a fan of the series, and I think the Watch Dogs Legion looks like a really fun entry. I mean, this game looks very dark, which I like. Again, the first game's quite dark, so I like going back to that. Also, the game is set in London, which I'm a big fan of London. I visit there a lot. I love that city, so to see this open world, futuristic recreation of London, especially with the accuracy, it looks very, very good, and I'm very excited to explore that world. And also, this character switching thing is very, very unique. It's something I've not really seen before. It does kind of remind me of the game Driver San Francisco. If you ever played that game where you could kind of jump between different cars at different times, it kind of reminds me of that a little bit, but this still feels very unique and very new and very fresh to this game. Of course, there is the worry that I discussed this back in my E3 video last year when talking about Watch Dogs Legion, which is that it's going to be hard to get super invested in the characters in this game, because every character is going to be different and you're going to be switching between them and they can pretty much die at any time. So that is, you know, a sacrifice the game is going to have to make. However, I do have to commend Ubisoft because this game does look unique, and this feature is something I've not really seen used in a game like this before. Like I say, there's a similar thing in Driver San Francisco, which is more of a driving, you know, racing game. This is a lot more obviously an open world action game. So, you know, in a way, it's a bad thing because they are going to have to sacrifice characters and, you know, character development and stuff like that, and players' attachment to characters. Not that I've ever been super invested in a Watch Dogs protagonist before, but, you know, it's going to be definitely less of that in this game. But more particularly, you know, while they are sacrificing that, they are bringing in this new gameplay element, which, you know, I have to kind of respect that for, you know, even though we are losing that thing, we are gaining this other thing. So I think Watch Dogs Legion looks really cool. Also, that trailer they released was really awesome. Like, they had like an actual, I believe it was like an actual film director to actually make that, you know, that little trailer, which was really nice. It kind of reminds me of The Purge, actually. Like, that's the main kind of thing I get from this, is that it reminds me of the film series The Purge. And the reason I say that is just because it has these masks. They seem to be very prominent within the game, but still, it still looks like a really fun game. I mean, like I say, this body swap, this character, you know, roster thing, it does seem very unique and very interesting. As far as like the core gameplay, it seems very, very similar to Watch Dogs 2. It does seem like it's following on from that, which obviously isn't necessarily a bad thing. It just looks very, very similar mechanics-wise to Watch Dogs 2, but it does have this big, you know, new character thing in it, which does, you know, bode well for the game. So overall, Watch Dogs Legion, I'm still excited about it. We got a release date, October, so it's coming out in October just in time for the next generation. So looks really cool. I'm on board and I'm excited. Now, we also finally got our official gameplay reveal for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and Valhalla, I have to say, looks fantastic. Again, I was a fan of Watch Dogs. I'm also a fan of Assassin's Creed. I've not been a huge fan of what Assassin's Creed has been doing in the last couple of years, particularly going a lot more down the RPG route, particularly Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I was not a fan of that game. It's just purely a personal thing. I'm not an RPG guy, so that style for Assassin's Creed doesn't really work that well for me. And unfortunately, based on this gameplay demo, it does look like Assassin's Creed Valhalla is kind of sticking in the RPG genre, which I have to say, it's not something that's shocking. I was expecting this with Valhalla. I was expecting it to be more RPG heavy. However, the gameplay looks great, and I'm still excited about it. I'm still going to pick up this game. It still looks really fun to me. I love the setting. Of course, we've been wanting a Viking-era Assassin's Creed for a long time. The character looks really cool. Like Ivor, you can play as a male or a female. It's completely customizable all the way through the game, which I think is a great idea. The graphics look fantastic for this game. Facial animations look a bit dodgy, but besides that, the actual like landscapes look beautiful. I think that this game, in terms of its combat, looks incredibly brutal, which I think is very appropriate for the Viking era. It just, some of the moves that Ivor was doing in this gameplay demo, you know, like this particular one that keeps coming up where like he or she, well particularly she in this gameplay demo, were throwing these axes in multitudes, and it was brutal. It was definitely a very, very brutal thing to look at, but very enjoyable. I think that Valhalla, like I say, even though I'm slightly worried about it being a bit more RPG heavy, the thing that does give me confidence is that this is developed by Ashraf Ismail and his team, which is a very, very good team for Assassin's Creed. They developed Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, which is my favorite game in the series, and they also developed Assassin's Creed Origins, which is a game that I haven't actually finished to this day, but from what I have played of it, I really, really liked Origins. I thought it was really good. Like I say, that was kind of like the perfect blend of Assassin's Creed of old style and RPG for me. Odyssey went a step further than that, and that was kind of like the breaking point, but Origins was just perfect. So given the fact that Ashraf Ismail and his team are working on this game does give me a lot of faith. And like I say, based on this gameplay demo, even though it does still feel like it's dipping its toes in the RPG genre, which I'm not super hot on, I still think the game looks great and I'm still excited about it. And the final game to talk about here is, of course, Far Cry 6. Now, as I said at the beginning, I think this was meant to be Ubisoft's big, you know, reveal at the end of the event, but unfortunately, due to these leaks that we always seem to get before these big events, very mysteriously, this game was unfortunately revealed beforehand. But Far Cry 6, you know, going into this, again, I'm a fan of Far Cry. I've played Far Cry 3, 4, and 5, and also the other like spin-offs that have come from throughout that. And I'm a fan of the series, and I think that Far Cry 6, this particular new entry, looks great. This particular trailer that we got for the game, like this kind of opening cinematic, was beautiful. The music and the animations, it just looked beautiful. It was like a TV intro. It looks stunning. And then we got this actual CG animated trailer where we got introduced to the main villain of the game. Of course, Far Cry has always been very much focused on marketing its villain, like that's kind of what they do. And this time we have a true A-list actor in the role of the villain, which is Giancarlo Esposito, who you'll know from things like Breaking Bad and The Boys, and also The Mandalorian. He's a very, very well-regarded and very popular TV actor. He's always known for playing villains, so to get him to play a villain in a Far Cry game, I think is a just brilliant idea. And we also get to see his son as well, who is actually played by the voice actor of Coco from the Pixar movie, so that's really cool. So we've actually got some really cool talent behind Far Cry this year. And this game, honestly, looks great. I mean, it's hard to really make too much of a judgment on Far Cry 6 right now, just because this is purely, you know, just trailers and CG animated stuff. We haven't actually seen any gameplay or anything like that. We have seen a few screenshots released today from the game, and we've had a few details about it. Now, I imagine the game is going to be pretty similar to Far Cry 5. Now, I didn't love Far Cry 5 as much as I did Far Cry 3 and 4. I felt like 5 was a bit too different for a Far Cry game. It kind of felt a bit weird having it set in the modern day, or at least set in a modern day where it was, because obviously all Far Cry games are set in the modern day, but set in the modern day where it was kind of like a very modern environment. And that was a bit strange, because normally with Far Cry you're used to being in these more exotic and more out there locations, whereas with this it was a bit more, with Far Cry 5 it was a bit more of a modern, you know, set in like Montana, and it was set in these like modern locations, so it was a bit of a weird one for me. But Far Cry 6 taking place on this fictional island of Yara. It seems to be this very exotic, very beautiful location with all these different biomes. You know, I've heard the developers talking about how there's many different areas you can explore in the game, ranging from beaches to mountains, this big central city area called Esperanza. There just seems to be this really diverse location for the Far Cry, which it kind of gives me vibes of Just Cause 2, the island in Just Cause 2, you know, where there's actually every kind of biome possible. I don't know how that's even possible, but it was, and it was beautiful, and that was an incredible game world. Not very alive, but very diverse, and I feel like that same mentality is going to be applied to here for Yara in Far Cry 6. And I really like the idea of this. You know, you're playing as a character who is born and bred in Yara. You're rising up in the rebellion to take down Giancarlo Esposito's character. You want to overthrow his reign and also overthrow the character of Diego, who is his son, who's going to take over from him when he dies. And I think that's a really cool story. You know, we've never really had a Far Cry game where the protagonist is from the location that it takes place in. We've never really seen that before. Like, obviously in Far Cry 3, Jason Brody gets sort of basically shipwrecked on you know, the island on Rook Island, and Far Cry 4, RJ Gale gets, you know, just basically wrapped up in the Civil War, and Far Cry 5 you're a cop who gets sent in. So this is a very new idea for the Far Cry series, to have a protagonist from the location where it's set. So yeah, I'm excited about Far Cry 6. Again, as a fan of the series, I think this is a positive step. I'm liking where this is going. It seems to be a bit different than what we've seen before, and that is very exciting to me. I've also heard apparently that the protagonist for the first time ever is actually going to appear in cutscenes and stuff like that, so I imagine maybe we'll have a set protagonist like we did in 3 and 4, or even if they are customizable, we'll actually see them in the cutscenes, which is a nice change. Hopefully they'll actually give some character to him, or to him and or her, because, you know, Far Cry 5, that silent protagonist thing was just terrible. So I'm really hoping that we get some more actual character for our protagonist in Far Cry 6. But I'm very, very excited about this game overall. It looks great and looks like a positive step for the franchise. So that was everything that kind of stood out to me in the Ubisoft Forward show. Like I say, it's not like an incredible show. These were mainly the 3 things that stood out to me, and these were like the 3 big games. That was like the beginning, the middle, and the end. There were a couple of other like mobile things sprinkled in, and we got like this new Tom Clancy game, like Elite Squad revealed, and they did also focus on Hyperspace, was it called? It was like this new Battle Royale game, which I thought looked really cool initially, and then they said it was Battle Royale, and it completely lost my interest. I'm sorry, I do not care about Battle Royale. But still, I think it's a decent show. Again, it would have been a lot more impactful had we not known about Far Cry 6 going into it. That would have been a pretty banging reveal at the end. But still, I'm not going to take that away from it, because again, that was sort of out of their control. But Watch Dogs Legion, it got me excited for the game even more. I'm very excited about it. It looks great. It looks very strong, very promising. Assassin's Creed Valhalla, just further proves why this game looks absolutely incredible, and Far Cry 6 was just a great way to end the show, and I'm very excited to see where it goes from here. But what did you guys think about Ubisoft Forward? Make sure you let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think about the show, and also which game were you most excited about at the reveal? Make sure you let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And as always guys, if you want to see more gaming videos just like this one, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any uploads from me, and I hope to see you guys again next time.